is day one of a small bathroom that I'm getting ready to build. So the reason I'm on camera, I can't show any damages. A lot of my videos I show damages of the previous situation that's going on because it helps people understand how damages happen and how to make sure they don't happen to you. There's no damage, although I think there used to be at some point, so the customer told me. This used to be a bathtub, so this is a tub to shower conversion, and I do quite a few of these in the course of the year. The reason that I'm doing this video specifically right now, and I'll probably show a little bit more later on, is because this is the prep. I did not do this. This is the prep that I would do, but I did not do this. So when you're getting ready to do a tile job, whether it's a shower or floor or whatever, you have to prep everything, get it ready for, installation of your material eventually. And the prep matters. It matters a lot. Everything that you do prior to even touching a tile, which for me won't be day one, probably 8 days from now, maybe 9 days from now is when I'll start touching tile. Before I ever touch tile, I'm doing prep to make sure that there's no issues, there's no water leak later on, there's nothing that will hinder the whole build of a shower. I have decided to show how to install a pan liner. I haven't done anything yet, by the way, on this shower, except that I've taken off the top locking flange, which is this. This is what I spoke about earlier, with these little troughs at the bottom, which is right flush with the floor, and then another little barely 1/4 of an inch gap between the top one. Anyway, that goes off, the bolts come off, the barrel comes off. My phone is making music as I'm talking. That was kind of weird. Already. Enough already. The pan liner. Always get more than you need. It would suck to have not enough. This is a 6-foot span, so at least 7 foot is what you're going to need. This is roughly about 32 inches. I'm going to call that 3 foot. 4 foot is appropriate. You're going to have a little cutoff at the end, but again, better more than not enough. So an ideal pan would be 7 to 8 foot across on a 5 foot opening. You could do with 6, but 7 would be ideal. By about 4 foot, or even if you got a 5 foot, that's fine. You're going to waste a little bit. Again, better more than not enough. People have asked me if I notch out those 2x4 so I can push my pan liner folds back there, and no, I don't. I don't do that. I let the fold come over here, and I'll show you momentarily. My wallboard gets pushed against that fold. Does it bump out? Yes, slightly, but it doesn't matter in the end because I'm going to be putting, thin set on my wall and thin set on my tile, so the bump out is minuscule. I don't do that specifically because I don't want that ear of the fold going back and dropping down in there. I don't want that to happen, so I don't do that, but you could if you wanted to. So my 2 hospital folds go in that corner, and they go in this direction so that I have an even fold here as I do over here. It's not just willy-nilly. That's how I do it. There is a mistake people made on here when they did the sheetrock, because it can't be flush with the curb the way they had it. Looked nice and neat, but it's not going to work. The pan liner eventually has to go over the curb, and part of that pan liner is going to go up in this direction here. There is a thing called a dam corner, and I don't know why people call curbs a dam, but it should be a curb corner, but they call it a dam corner. So generally they go up there because people are freaked out about curbs, and they should be. Those are what fail the most, especially in the corners. However, the way I do mine, my wallboard goes up and over. My wallboard goes across, overlapping that excess pan liner that I have going up here. And yes, there's no pan liner over here, but this will never get wet because there's going to be waterproofing on my entire curb, waterproofing on my wallboard, waterproofing in the corners, tile, grout, etc., etc. So water can't ever get into there. If you use a if you used a curb corner, it would not hurt, but my humble opinion is the way I build showers, it does not help. Water can't ever get through there any more than it can here, here or anywhere else. So yes, that is Achilles heel of almost every shower I take out where there's a leak, but I make sure that that is all a sealed type of environment. Your pan liner material should be set out in the sun, which this has been. It's a nice 80-degree day, so it's nice and supple. It's a lot easier to manipulate and fold when it's warm and soft than in the wintertime when it's cold. Oh, another thing. You're going to want to, this ridge right here, this recessed ridge, is where a bead of caulking is going to go. So you just run a bead of caulking on top of here. You're going to dry fit your pan liner and know where you're going to put it first and do all your, you don't have to do your folds and all that stuff, but you're going to do all that stuff first so that you know exactly where the pan liner is going to go. That's at a point where you would run your bead of caulking, pull the pan liner back, run your bead of caulking, and then push the pan liner back there and push your pan liner on top of that bead of caulking that you put on there. Now you can go forward with fastening the top of your pan liner to all this area. So that's it, and I will get started and figure out a way to set up my camera somewhere. This guy got a 6-foot wide piece, which is okay. It's going to probably go up about 19 inches up the wall, which is okay. There's no point in, oh, by the way, pan liner should go at a minimum at the top of that 2x6. The reason being 3 inches above the curb material. So if you were just slightly above the 2x6 all the way around, you're good to go. Minimum 3 inches. Any more than that, you're not really doing any help, but you're not doing any harm. This back area is way above that, which is fine. That's a good part of 14 inches. And the front area is probably about 12-13 inches also, and we're way above that 3-inch mark. So that's just the dry fit so far, and the dry fit is important because now is where you're going to run your bead of caulking before you start attaching this pan liner, and you're just going to fold that back. I just happen to have some white silicone, and you just put a liberal amount all around that indentation. Once that's done, push your pan liner back on top, push all that caulking down in place really well. You're not going to move your pan liner at all after that point. That's the last point before you start attaching the pan liner. It's not necessary to attach everywhere at the top of here. In fact, it would be sometimes counterproductive to go that low. I usually attach, you'll see a little bit, but I usually attach the highest point possible. Here it's going to be really high, but it's going to be way up here on the stud, on the stud, on the stud, all the way across. Same as that, top of there, top of there. Because in the end, all you're doing is making sure that it doesn't move when you start putting your mortar in. Then you attach to the outside at the very bottom, put some screws down here, and then when you're finally done, then you're just going to get a razor knife and cut off all your excess pan liner material. So, relatively easy process, but of all the things that you can do in a shower as a DIYer, none of this really matters too much. This is the prep. This is going to fail you or make you good. That goes not just with a DIYer, but a contractor as well. If they fail to do any of this correct, then everything else after that is a mood issue. It doesn't matter. I've come across many showers that were just built by a so-called tile guy, which in some cases he can do tile very well, but he's never built a shower. But this is the most important part that you can put in. So as a DIYer, you should be a little apprehensive about doing something like this. If you're learned, if you're intelligent enough to figure out how water works, then it shouldn't be an issue, but I'm just letting you know. As you saw, and I already knew, my pan material would go way up the wall, more than it needs to. And no harm, no foul. My wallboard is going to overlap it considerably, so it doesn't really matter. But as you also see, my fasteners are few and far between, because all you're doing ultimately is holding the liner up. That's all it's doing. Now, here is where it gets really kind of sketchy. When I cut into the liner, you have one shot to get it right. So I'm going to cut into the liner, a little X where the drain is at, not all the way to the edge of the drain. I don't cut the circle like a lot of people do. When I put that X in there, I'll be able to reach up under, and I'll be able to feel where my bolt holes are. Again, I know exactly where I'm at. You can reach around, you can feel the outside edge of the drain, and that's where this X is going to end up going, and I won't be able to show it. Well, maybe I will. And then once that's done, I can reach up under there and feel all 4 of those bolt holes and know exactly where to place my X to push my bolts through. If you mess up here, you're going to know day one. And I've taken out showers where they messed up here and it leaked day one, unfortunately, so they got to do the whole pan thing again. Is it possible to take out, just relegate yourself to a certain area and just kind of focus in on that and redo it? Yes, but it's still not easy, very time consuming, and not necessary if you do this step right. I'm going to be a little relegated on showing the complete process, only because my camera is right in the way of where I'm going to need to move eventually. But the idea, you come off about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch from the edge of your drain, and you create an X or a cross, or whatever you want to call it, from that spot to the center. Now you have these flaps, and you've also opened up your liner so that you can reach under and do it with my finger. I just kind of slide it around until I can find a bolt hole, put my thumb there so I firmly know where it's at. Then I make a very small X. Sometimes I make them too small and I gotta widen them. And then I'm able to push my bolt. And you want to make it difficult to get that bolt in there. That's the whole point. Water theoretically could get in there if you don't. And that's the reason I don't cut a circle or make an X on top of my bolt. head because that's much wider. That's what I was trying to explain earlier. As they say sometimes, measure twice, cut once. Make sure when you're doing this that you definitively have the center of the hole before you cut, because anything that you do to screw this up, you will have a bad day. Maybe I can't get in here without moving the camera. Okay. This is where your locking flange comes in, and sometimes this X isn't wide enough. As I said before, this bottom part is going to push those flaps in a downward position, which is why I like doing the X instead of cutting a complete circle, which makes no sense because I'm giving more protection doing it this way. So then I just firmly push that down, give it the twist that it needs, and then I tighten the bolts. And when I say it's easy, it's just because it's repetitive for me. I do this all the time. A couple times a month I'm building a new shower. A couple times a month I'm putting in a new liner. It's a redundancy that I've just been doing for years and years and years. And never saw a video 20 years ago. YouTube didn't exist 20 years ago. But I've been doing it this way from day one without any knowledge of the circle cuts and stuff like that. The only knowledge I have of that is all the showers that I've taken out. And then when I put one in, I'm like, okay, when I took it out, it didn't make any sense to do it that way. And I always try and leave it better than when I found it. And this is definitely a way to go to ensure you have a watertight shower. My cuts were a little bit off, but you can clearly see the four flaps in a downward position, and then the barrel will push those down even further as we start doing the pan and all that stuff. And that's all there is to it. That's as easy as it gets. That ridge that you put the caulking on now has the opposite bottom of this extended part, which you see on top of here at the bottom, and that's pushing down into that ridge where the caulking is. So you have a nice watertight seal in case the water ever backs up and happens to get past that liner that I pushed down and happens to get up under there, then you're not going to have any exterior damage, and that's the reason for the caulking. But yeah, we're ready to pour the pan now. Don't think I'm going to go through that process. I think that's enough tutorial for the time being. This is going to go down a lot further than what I normally do, because normally I'm centering the drain and they didn't want it that way. So my pan material will rise quite a bit over here, and then incrementally it'll go down to about an inch or so, about an inch and a half. Yeah, that's pretty much bottomed out right there. So my pan material will be pretty girthy right there, inch and a half, inch and 3/4, and then it'll rise up to about 2.5 inches, maybe 3 inches by the time I get over there, and that's the next phase. Everything here ensures a watertight shower. So this is, I'm guessing about an hour and a half later. the pan is poured. I always say pouring the pan, but it's kind of a misnomer. My drain is raised up probably, on the last on camera, I turned it back, I think 2 full turns. So it's raised up about a good part of 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches, and then it just incrementally goes up this direction. There are different ways to pack down and screed and do all the different things to manipulate your pan so that everything is flat and not level. You don't want this level. I have all these different tools, flat trowels and this and that and levels and all kinds of different things that I use. There's no right or wrong way. There is sometimes an easier way to do things. Sometimes people start at the perimeter. I don't normally do that. Sometimes I do. And you pack down the perimeter with enough mortar that you're going to be working with, especially if you have a center drain, and then you can do the inside part last, so that you have a flat level perimeter to start with, which makes everything easier to kind of slope down to the drain. On this type of application where it's sloped, you really can't do that. But you're going to manipulate with your trowel, you're going to manipulate all your mortar, and you're going to pack it down really well. That's very, very important. And then I start packing it down with this and screed it off and get it level. So I'm not going to go through that process, and I didn't go through that process showing you because it's too time consuming. In the end, what you want, which is the most important thing, is you want it level going across. So going across all the way, you want it level and flat. That's important. So as long as it's flat and level, it doesn't matter how you get to the end result, and it should be that way all the way up. All the way back rather. Flat all the way across and level. Then you would put it on the back there. So that's kind of the idea. And then your larger level, make sure that is flat and off level. So I have a slight slope going down, which looks like about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. And it should be flat all the way across as this is, and it should be off, which it is. And again, I got about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch drop going down, and it should be the same on the back of here, which it is. Flat and off level. So that's basically how this is done. Everything else past that, everything else, how you do it, how you get to that end result is irrelevant. You know, you could watch other people's videos and go, oh, that's the method for me, or this is the method, or that's the method. Everybody has their own way. So I don't propose that there's only one right and wrong way. It's what's easiest for you. Hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're gonna call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.